Happy Victory Monday, Broncos country. The Broncos beat the Jaguars in London, and we have a victory pod ready for you. I'm Bri This is Let's Talk Broncos, and I'm here with Zach Seegers and Joey Richards. Guys, how are you?
I'm doing really good. I'm excited to be here finally. This isn't even Broncos therapy session anymore. This is just Broncos win, celebration pod. We're going to go over a little of the trade deadline stuff that we have to get out of the way. But I'm here excited and happy to celebrate with Broncos country. Zach, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. We had a little LTB excursion yesterday because the Broncos played so early. Went to Haunted House, rode some roller coasters, helped Joey conquer a fear. It was a fantastic timeout. My girlfriend and Tori from Twitter also went. Great times had by all. And then, ready to celebrate some Halloween tonight. Probably stay in, watch some scary movies, and talk about a Broncos win. Like you said, Joey, it feels great. And it wasn't, I've got to say, it was better than even a Broncos win because it was the first, I think, fun Broncos game of the year. Like the rest of it, because their other two wins were the Texans game, which I think we all said at the time was maybe the worst Broncos win we've ever seen. It was such a pit of misery. And then the 49ers win, which I think was fun from a defensive perspective, but you still had just offensive filth everywhere. Trigger Treatment Nungus, thank you for stopping by. But I don't know. It was just great. This was the most fun Broncos game of the season, and I'm cherishing that.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head there because the other games didn't feel like wins. They felt like eked out. This one, although it was close, it was a definitive win here for the Denver Broncos because I think there was a lot of good that could be taken out of that. Zach had to convince me earlier that a 50% improvement is better than no improvement whatsoever. So I'll take that. Good football minutes leading to wins is all it really takes. And the NFL is all about whatever it takes. So I will take that win. I think you guys are in the same group as I am. Let's get right into it. So we're going to talk about the Jags game, and Let's Ride is back. How do you guys feel about it?
Me personally, I don't think Let's Ride is back. I want, especially off the pod. I'm gonna allow Russ to push that all he wants for this upcoming week. Especially I'm happy Broncos got to win, but off the pod, I need to see 2 in a row, and then we'll bring it back on the podcast. We'll sign off with a Let's Ride, but it needs to be 2 in a row.
Okay. All right, Zach.
I say if it's good enough for Greg Dulcich, it's good enough for Let's Talk Broncos.
Yeah, let's ride. Yeah, let's ride.
That's crazy.
I mean, with that sort of evidence there, I have a hard time fighting it.
And I think it's fine after wins. I think it's cringy when he does it and he's battered and bruised and he just went 5 of 27 for 16 yards and 2 interceptions. And he's like, Broncos country, let's ride. It's this is not the time for your little tongue-in-cheek line.
Okay. We have to stay. Well, okay, first we have to tackle some bad, I guess, and then we'll move to. For the most part, we're going to turn this, what's been Broncos therapy, into a very positive show, I think.
I think so too.
Broncos therapy has brought me down so much recently that we need to savor this right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
I fully agree. Yeah. I think, and again, so much of it, to me, honestly, starts with Russell Wilson. I think there's parts of the defense and maybe more valuable components to this game. But honestly, Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett, which has been the defining storyline of this entire NFL, or not entire NFL season, but entire Broncos season, which has been one of the bigger storylines across the NFL. And for the first time, they weren't disastrous. I don't know. You saw, this is kind of loaded, but I think it was the best Russell Wilson performance. It started with him throwing 2 passes directly to cornerbacks. So the bar was very, very low. But I think it was the best Russell Wilson performance. I think it was the best Nathaniel Hackett performance. You saw him make the adjustment to a really dumbed down offense, which in some ways is a critique of Wilson. But it worked. And I think you saw, like, for the first time, something to be excited about with coaching and with quarterback. It was a problem being solved. It wasn't falling into a solution because you have more talent than the other team. It was like they solved something in game. And I think that is a positive sign.
There we go.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a positive. I just want to remind anyone who's watching, if you're over on Twitter, you're going to need to jump on over to the Facebook or the YouTube stream so we can get your questions and comments highlighted, much like Wayne King, who has joined us from over on Facebook. It was Jacksonville. I agree, just more concerned about conference games than we will talk. That's fair. Frankie says we beat a 2-5 Jags team. Many excellent points. Nah, just kidding. A win's a win. Team has talent. I mean,
the Jags have found ways to lose games, but like there's a reason Vegas keeps favoring them consistently. Against the 6-1 Giants, the Jags were 3-point favorites, and that's Vegas going, "Hey, our numbers say the Jaguars are a better team than the Giants, and we're going to trust our numbers." And it did not turn out for them. There's something special about that Brian Dable squad. But I don't think the Jags are just, especially in this NFL season where so many teams are in the middle, I don't think the Jags should be completely written off. And if Broncos country should have learned anything this year, it's that the wins against the bad teams matter. They lost games against the Colts, who are definitely worse than them.
I think that – can I give a Jags take real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that the Jags are the definition of a team that's a year away. Doug Peterson is going to do a really good job with that team. You're already seeing like a year removed from that Urban Meyer in the headline, like every other day squad, to a team that, the culture seemed to completely shifted to, a much more positive Jags culture, and then you're seeing some of the benefits from that. They're a team that's really young, and they're losing a lot of close games. They're a team. They're definitely going to be a year away, in my opinion. Trevor Lawrence is only going to get better. I think. I have a lot of faith in that Jaguars team going forward.
Sorry, I wanted to highlight Frankie, who backs your statement there. Doug Peterson is a good coach. Lawrence is a good QB, and that's a good pass rush. Good win. I absolutely think it was a good win. I will take it. What I want to talk about, too, before we get too in-depth into recapping the game, there's a lot of news swirling right now, and I think it's important to touch on it as well. But before I get into that, I want to talk about Wayne's point here. Love the Raiders' loss, though. Makes me feel more confident in beating them the second time. Zach, I know you wanted to touch on that. What does that shutout and that pitiful performance by Derek Carr mean for the Broncos when the Raiders come to town here in a couple of weeks?
I mean, I think it shows the Raiders are still a vulnerable team. If you can limit Josh Jacobs, who, I don't know, for 3 weeks there, 3-4 weeks, was looking like the best running back in the league, I think this Raiders offense can totally be stopped. They were struggling the first few weeks before they really got Josh Jacobs rolling in that Broncos game. You could even look the week before against the Titans, which was one of their better offensive performances of the early season. And that was kind of where it started clicking with Jacobs. They lose that game. Then they really get him rolling in that Broncos game, win that one, give the Chiefs a really tough contest in Arrowhead. But I don't know, the Raiders have talent. I think McDaniels is getting that offensive line to play above the sum of its parts. I don't know. Like, I think if anything, it should be closer. I don't know. I can't trust this Broncos team either, but you can't trust the Raiders. It's a toss-up to me.
Yeah, the Broncos are another team that you can't trust, right? Like that's pretty much the issue. Is that it's kind of like a toss-up every week between the two teams. I think I keep waiting for this Broncos offense to catch some consistency, and it could happen. I'm like, why can't it still happen? It could happen. But is it something you want to bank on yet? No. The Raiders are kind of in the same situation. Why can't the Raiders catch some fire? They're a talented team. I don't know. That's just kind of where I am. It's 50-50 up in the air for me. Now, I will say that Raiders team, for all the turmoil the Broncos have been in, that Raiders team isn't just as much. They're just coming off of a complete scoring 0 points, being shut out on offensive games. So whereas the Broncos are coming off a pretty positive win. So one team's heading in the wrong direction, one team's heading in the right direction after, I guess it's a single week. But like I said, this is the Broncos positive pod right now. I'm gonna roll with it.
You have to roll with the punches, much like Frankie's jabbing over here. I seem to remember a couple of podcast hosts having a ton of faith in McDaniels. Listen, we said there was a high ceiling, not that there was a high floor.
We also said that there was a low floor. I'm not going to pass blame on anybody else in this podcast. But someone else said he had a high floor.
Because your prediction, if anything happens, you would have gone, "Oh, I'm right now." It's nonsense. I also think I feel right because I think you're seeing his offensive expertise pick this team up from where it would be in terms of some of their talent, specifically on the offensive line. I don't think they even win those games if they don't have the offensive line playing at the level it's been playing, and I credit McDaniels for that greatly. I also think Patrick Graham has the defense playing better than they were under Gus Bradley a year ago, and that's part of the McDaniels thing, having a nice little tree there. So I'll back my low floor point, even if I don't really believe it.
High floor.
High floor.
Freudian slip.
All right, that's fine. What I want to do, you guys touch on something, and you said you really can't trust the Broncos. I cannot talk today, and I've been talking all day long. You can't trust the Broncos. You can't trust a team like the Raiders. You can't trust the Packers, the Buccaneers. There's only a couple of teams that you can truly count on here. It's making it extremely difficult for people like myself to choose a winning team in survivor pools. That's a testament to what the league has been doing this year. You've got teams upsetting another one that there really should be no reason to. It's really interesting to me because I think that this is a lot more hectic, or the top two teams being obviously sort of the Bills and the Chiefs. I mean, the Eagles undefeated. There's only a couple that you can barely count on one hand that are doing much of anything, I guess. Is that a fair statement? And I think that doesn't necessarily mean good standing for the Denver Broncos, but yeah, nobody can really trust their teams right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's why the Broncos could maybe claw their way back into competition. I don't think they ultimately make the playoffs. They've lost so many tiebreakers to teams that are going to be in the hunt. But they have one of the few units in the NFL that has been reliable and special week in and week out. I think you'd look at like Bills offense and defense. You'd look at the Cowboys defense. You'd look at the Eagles offense, the Chiefs offense. With how the Eagles defense has played recently, I think you could throw that unit in there too. And then I think you have the Broncos defense. Like, I think those are the units that have been truly dominant throughout this NFL season so far. And if the offense can progress to just like being functional, and I don't even know if it was quite at that level in the Jaguars game, but if it can get there to just like being functional, I think they can rattle off wins. There's a lot of like shaky, unreliable, bad football teams. It's in part why I think the Broncos probably won't get there, because I think they're kind of one of those teams. But if they do, they'll stand above the muck.
Okay, one last point. Alex Ramirez said, great show, LTB. When the Broncos win, businesses and everyone is always in a better mood until the game. That is Mile High Sports' very own. Yes. Alex, thank you for popping in here, saying hello. We appreciate you. And man, do you have it correct there. I think we've all been riding a Denver Broncos win high. And thankfully, there's a bye week to carry us through. So we get to cherish this one for a little bit longer. And I think we all really deserve that. So thanks again for chiming in over there on Facebook. Joey, did you have another point on that? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, just like, I think you nailed the bye week, Bri. A lot of time for us to talk our way back into this team again, right? Like, yeah. That's not the worst thing. It's not the worst thing. Get ready. Get back. Get your game face on. We're back ready. I'm going to be interested. The trade deadline is right among us. There's a lot of exciting things happening right now. At least newsworthy stuff to like check your phone constantly, or I don't know. There's a lot of NFL news going on. It's a good time to be an NFL fan.
Well, the one thing about that is like there's a lot of time over this bye week to buy back in, but there's also it could have a damper put on it immediately if they trade a defensive captain. And I'm not even saying it's the wrong choice. I know Joey's all for it. And I'm not even trying to say it's a bad move or anything, but if you're trying to get back on board with this Broncos season and all of a sudden they trade one of their best defensive players, a defensive team captain, it's gonna, I don't know, put a damper on this team's back on track.
Why won't any of my Bronco analyst brethren allow me to have good draft content this year? I keep wondering this. Everybody is on the timeline upset about it. I get it. I love Bradley Chubb too. He's an awesome player, hell of a player. This is the first year I started scouting. Really, was Bradley Chubb. Like started watching some of those YouTube clip ups of like all those little defensive snaps in a game and stuff like that. I get it. I love Bradley Chubb. I was excited about the pick. Fantastic player. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to deliver this Broncos draft content to the people. And I think that's important.
It's incredibly important, Joey, but is it more important than our feelings and our well-being and Frankie not, running away forever if Bradley Chubb is traded? I don't know. I'm selfishly hoping he isn't, but
I selfishly kind of hope he isn't too, just because it bumps me out. But I do think trading him would be the right decision. And in that regard, I kind of I think my brain kind of wants to see them trade him for a first round pick. If you get that 49ers first round pick right now, it's unclear if the 49ers will make the playoffs. I think they're trending in that direction. And that's going with the rumor that the Jets have dropped out. If you get the 49ers first round pick and then, some other Dolphins pick, let's say it's a 5th or a 6th or something, that's extremely helpful. Like a 5th round pick, that can be the future backfield mate to Javonte Williams. Because guess what? The Broncos are going to have to rebuild their running back room after this season. They're probably going to have to spend one of their draft picks, a late round one, on a running back, unless you want them to make multiple veteran additions at the position, which I think is proven is not the way to go at running back. There's small needs that they need their late round picks for, but right now they're going to have to use those late round picks on swings at offensive line, at cornerback, and they won't get the play to fill the holes at those positions because they have solid holes at those positions. They need premium picks in the first round, in the second round, if they can get them, and it sounds like they can get them for Bradley Chubb. Is 8 games of Bradley Chubb worth a future solution at tackle or opposite of Patrick Surtain at corner or elsewhere along the offensive line to replace Bradley Chubb in the draft for another guy who can be around here for 5 years, Joey? Sorry, wide receiver.
Bri, I think you're on mute.
Oh, I thought we lost Zach because he.
Oh, yeah. That was
we were just
really
having
confusing.
mute issues. Sorry there, Joey. Go ahead.
No, you're all good. I think Zach made some interesting points there. I just want to make the case of why it makes some sense from the Broncos' perspective. Like, I think that even going back to this offseason, I remember having conversations in this about, like, are the Broncos setting themselves up to be able to move from Bradley Chubb? In my opinion, this is a conversation that should have been happening a long time ago, just like out of the fact that you saw the investment the Broncos put into the edge room, right? We're talking about, okay, they went out, signed Randy Gregory to a big contract. And then they went out and drafted Nick Bonito with the 2nd round pick. And then they went and moved their best inside linebacker on the roster to edge. Those are 3 big moves at that same position Bradley Chubb was. And you're looking around, you're like, okay, that's curious, especially that Bradley Chubb is on a contract year. The Broncos, is this just, I don't know, reinforcements? Like, do the Broncos care about their 4th edge that much? Or are we looking to move on? Like, are we looking for replacements down the road? And that's kind of, I think they've set themselves in a position to do this. So, and then when you're even looking at it, the Broncos got 4.5 years out of Bradley Chubb, who they drafted in the 1st round, and then get a 1st round pick back, I don't think that's a waste on a draft pick. I don't. You got 4.5 years out of a quality player to the point where another team was even willing to give you, 4.5 years, right? Am I wrong?
You're right. I miscounted.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 4.5 years out of a player. Then it worked out to the point where another team's offering their first for him. That's a win in my book. That means that you made a good pick. You got it. It's just that now you don't want to sign the player for a massive contract. You're looking at the concerns with injuries. You put a bunch of investment at that same position. To Zach's point, like, would you rather be 4 deep at edge rusher, or would you rather have a starting offensive lineman for the next 5 years? Like that's kind of the question the Broncos have to ask themselves, and why it makes sense, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's I don't know. You need these picks. You need this roster. I think, like, yes, Wilson has been a problem, and yes, Hackett has been a problem, but I think this season has also exposed, like, the Broncos roster, especially on offense, wasn't as good as it was projected to be. And they're going to need some assets to fill those holes, and they're going to be strapped thin. Draymond Jones is probably coming back. So now all of a sudden it's like, okay, do you want to use all your cap space you have for the upcoming offseason on bringing Draymond Jones and Bradley Chubb back? I don't think that's a horrible answer. Those are two really good players at valuable positions who do valuable things. But, man, that really boxes you in. And now it's like you're relying on a 5th-round pick at, I don't know, linebacker to, like, start for you. And, like, is that going to work out? I mean, it might, but it might also be a disaster. So I think it's I don't know. You need something here, and you're getting an absolute bounty for Bradley Chubb. I also think it's clear at this point that the Broncos aren't going to resign Bradley Chubb. Maybe they franchise tag him, but I don't think he's in their long-term plans. So the conversation to me is really, is Bradley Chubb, are 9 games of Bradley Chubb on a Broncos team we're not sure will really even compete for a playoff spot, worth a 1st-round pick to you? Because if that offer's on the table, the Broncos would effectively be turning down a 1st-round. They're making that trade. They're giving up the opportunity of a 1st-round pick for 8 games of Bradley Chubb.
Right.
And, like, if you flip it, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I think I don't know, let him walk.
I don't like it. I'm not happy about it. And now I'm depressed again. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to make a 180 and we're going to talk about the game because, I'm no longer happy. Let's get into who deserves a game ball from Sunday morning's bright and early game against the Jaguars in London. I think there's plenty of candidates. There were so many good stock ups from Zach's coverage. There's an article newly released this morning over on milehighsports.com where you can read all of them because there's no way we're going to get through them all. But I want you guys to tell me who is your player of the game.
Okay. Who is my player of the game? I'm between a couple players. I'm thinking I want to go. I'm going to go. This isn't necessarily the player of the game. I just want to give this player the player of the game because of where he started. Damari Mathis, right? For the last 2 weeks now, I just want to highlight Damari Mathis, right? Like that's important to me right now, is making sure that he gets some recognition here on this podcast. The guy was so many pass interferences in his first start, right? So many. The guy was getting beat up all over the place online. And honest to God, he shouldn't even be in the position to go out there and play as many snaps as he is, being where he was drafted from. To see him now 2 weeks in a row, very quiet days. Very quiet days. We're not seeing Damari Mathis just get burnt play in, play out. He's not getting a flag every single other play. All that different type of stuff. So I don't know. I'm going to Damari Mathis. How do you guys feel about that?
I think he absolutely deserves recognition. I'll hop on that bandwagon for sure. The Broncos are putting a lot on his plate. It should not he shouldn't be in this position. Also, to your point, and yeah, he was awesome. Last week, he allowed under 4 yards a target. He allowed a high catch rate, but who cares if you're allowing under 4 yards per target? That's a loss for the offense. That's a negative play. You're keeping them behind the sticks. So I think that was a huge success. I'm looking at how he did in this game now just to get the data on it. He was targeted 5 times. He allowed 3 receptions for 29 yards. So about 6 yards a target, which isn't terrible. Just allowing 3 receptions for 30 yards, like you'll live with that, especially from a day 3 rookie corner. If he was a starter, like that's a mid-level starter performance, and you're fine with that. The fact he's a day 3 rookie is crazy. I do want to hold your feet to the fire a little bit, though, just because I put this question in here because I think there's so many cases for like who the player of the game was. Like K'Wan Williams, insane, ended multiple drives with PBUs, and then of course had the game sealing INT. I think Greg Dulcich took over one single drive. Jerry Jeudy had another one of the best games of his career. Was awesome. I'm going to go with Justin Simmons because I think the interception he made saved the Broncos season. Whatever little shred of hope is left, the defense was buckling in that moment. I think we were seeing the cracks start to form. It's like you're walking out on a frozen lake and all of a sudden it starts cracking and the whole thing goes. It felt like that was starting to happen as the Jags neared that touchdown. And I think Justin Simmons diving through and getting that interception got some mojo back in the defense, got some fire back in their bellies. And then the offense started rolling. And I think that was critical to winning this game and keeping the Broncos defense on board for this season.
Not only that, he had a rebound pretty atrociously back from a holding and a taunting penalty, where I think the only way the team leader, the team captain, the defensive face of the entire team, the only way he comes back from those two silly mistakes is he makes that play. And it was absolutely astounding. I think the real answer is Justin Simmons for that play. Also, a father once more. Him and Taryn have had their third child. So congratulations to them. That's fantastic. But I just really think it was supposed to happen that way, as serendipitous as it is in the way that it played out. You did name off a lot of the other players who I think did a fantastic job. You've got Greg Dulcich obviously going for 4 receptions for 87 yards. That puts him at 12 for 187, I think. I don't want to misquote that. I have it somewhere. 182 yards. That's a tremendous impact, and he just keeps getting better week in and week out. This is the Let's Talk Dulcich pod, LTD now, just so everyone is aware. That's what I'm going to be doing henceforth. But, Zach, I could not agree with your choice any more than you've already said. Yeah. Good, Joey? Not going to say anything?
I'm good.
I'm sorry, no, Joey, I'm curious. Who would you give the game ball to? If you had to, because I know you hyped up Damari Mathis, and he absolutely deserves a spotlight. But like you said, even to open it, you were like, this guy probably doesn't really deserve it. But there's just so many, and that's why I listed him off. I'm sorry,
I would probably agree as well. I would probably agree as well with Justin Simmons, right? He was the guy that saved the game and possibly, let's say, the Broncos turn it around the season, right? If they took this loss, if they took this loss, the chances of us turning the season around very, 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 very low. Not happening. I go with Justin Simmons. That would be my pick right there. I'm happy he's back. I'm happy that our all-pro player on our defense is back. And for him to make that interception in the end zone at the 1 yard line was such a big play. And honest to God, guys, very, very, very stupid pass by Trevor Lawrence. But good play by Justin Simmons. I'll take it.
You know what? I thought the Denver defense, the secondary, was going to have his number. It wasn't the player that I thought, though. But I thought for certain he'd be throwing a couple of picks. So I was happy to see them. The other one obviously going to K'Wan Williams. Coop says, Justin taking 6 or 3 points off the board potentially for them was massive. I absolutely agree there. And Wayne King also agrees with the LTB crew. Could have caused everyone to lose confidence. If the Jaguars score there, I think it was insurmountable to be able to come back in that game.
Yeah, totally. And think about the effect that this win had even on the morale. It felt so low going into this. And then even after the first quarter, I was on the phone with my dad and we're like, this team is unwatchable right now. After that first couple passes, after the interception, I'm like, oh my God, they get worse every week. I don't know what's going on. To them going home and you're seeing the players Hamler posted that meme of Superwoman just sprinting full speed, talking about that's going to be them doing high knees down the aisle, making light of the jokes going up to this game. The morale in the locker room has to feel a lot better. Now, to everyone's point in here, Bradley Chubb could turn that all back around. I don't want to go back into the negatives, but it is nice to see finally some confidence and some like lightheartedness come from the team. Everything felt so heavy before, and that's why like I started the show being like, I am tired of Broncos therapy session. I want this to be a positive pod. Everything was so heavy.
The high knees, they're making jokes about the high knees. KJ Hamler's tackling Russ from behind during the post-game interview. Like, yes, the vibes have been over. Hackett's cracking jokes at the post-game press conference, and Denver media is laughing at it rather than like, dude, you need to shut up right now, which is kind of what it's been for several weeks. The vibe overhaul has been big. Tiny note on Dulcich, just because holy shit was Bri right, and holy shit was I wrong. Because
I was wrong too.
Absolute home run. I think I don't want to speak for Bri, but I feel like he must have surpassed what even your wildest expectations could have been. Because right now, so let's factor in the fact he missed the first 5 weeks of the season. So he has 12 games to work with. Okay. He is currently on pace, even with just those 12 games. If he does what he's done over 3 games for the other 9, he will have the 6th most productive season for a rookie tight end in NFL history. No one else in the top 25 had less than 14 games to work with. And most of those are not injury related. They're like NFL season being shorter. So they still played like the whole for their team. They were engaged in training camp and all that stuff. If he didn't miss those first 5 weeks of the season and he continued this current pace over an entire 17-game season, you're looking at the second best rookie year for a tight end ever, behind only Mike Ditka, who had like 1,070 yards and 12 touchdowns. Dulcich is going to, again, extrapolating it, would land around 1,031 and 6 touchdowns, which is just like 40 yards and 6 touchdowns. That's the big gap. Shy. But that's because Ditka was scoring touchdowns like nobody's business. 6 touchdowns would put Dulcich near the top of the list compared to anyone else. What he's doing is historically unprecedented.
It really is. And believe me, it blew my expectations away too, because as we know, and we discuss quite frequently on Let's Talk Broncos, tight end group here, especially for Denver, has not always been great in the last couple of years. So here I was getting a little bit scared that we were going to see him have to warm up, but I did have a tremendous amount of faith that had he been given the opportunity, which I still think, imagine if some of those balls were there, if he was targeted just a little bit more frequently, what it could have been, because there's a lot of missed points and yards and production left on the field right now. And that, I think, is what frustrates me the most. But I don't think anybody's complaining about the way that Greg Dulcich is playing. I even venture to say, like, I'm well on my way of considering, if there's a jersey that's going to be available here soon, it might be the next one that I get. I am 100% bought into this very young and talented guy.
There you go, Bri. And yeah, and I just so not only is tight end the position that takes usually the longest to develop in the league, and Zach kind of spoke to that earlier about Dulcich and how far ahead he is in the curve for only playing, 3 games now? I want to point out how insane it is. Like, usually when a rookie misses as much time as he has, we're talking like almost all of training camp, right? Or it was all of training camp. He did rookie OTAs, right? And then missed the rest, if I'm pretty sure. For him to miss that much time and then come out and know what he's doing and play the amount of snaps he's playing is like massive testament to his work ethic and just how much work he's been putting in to study the playbook and know what he's doing. He's not even like, that's no live reps. That's him just looking at the film, looking at the playbook, studying the playbook, and making sure he knows what he's doing. And he must have got it across the coaches, because the coaches had a ridiculous amount of confidence in him. It went from Albert O to Dulcich in like no time whatsoever. It was like, oh, Dulcich is healthy. Albert O, you're gonna have to sit this one out, man.
Plug and play. Yeah.
It was like the amount of confidence the staff had in him. I don't know what he was doing to make sure the staff knew, like, oh, I'm ready right now. Like, I know what I'm doing, but he definitely made it clear as day. Whatever he had been doing, had to super impress the coaching staff. And with more live reps, he's only gonna get better. Now I will say, like, that first week he played, I'm sitting there like, man, if you're the defensive coordinator for the other team, are you even like, this is like such a wild card. Dulcich in there, you can't even game plan for Dulcich. Like, you have no idea. People are probably going into these games like, I can't believe that Dulcich is out there playing this many snaps. And this next week he's going to be one of those guys that the defensive coordinator is going to have to look at, and they're going to have to study, and they're going to have to, try to stop. It's not just Dulcich gets his. He's a legitimate weapon on this offense now.
Yeah, I think he's one of the key weapons on this offense. Cortland Sutton's in a bit of a cold spell right now. But when that gets rectified, I think it's Judy, Sutton, and Dulcich right now. And Dulcich might look like the most promising of the bunch. It's absolutely crazy. Also showed better signs as a blocker in this game. Had a couple big block on the Judy touchdown, as did KJ Hamler, and then a big block on a Judy screen as well. So that was nice to see. And then speaking of blocking, Graham Glasgow, I think that's a big reason to maybe feel more optimistic about the Broncos' future. He came in and immediately the offensive line got a couple steps better. And Joey, do you disagree?
No. It's just funny because it's like, man, carry on. I totally agree with you, by the
wild.
way.
It's depressing that it came to that, but he comes in and the offensive line immediately gets like a couple notches better. And I think it's like, honest, I'd be surprised if Lloyd Cushenberry, like barring an injury to Graham Glasgow, like I'd be surprised if based on performance, Lloyd Cushenberry starts another game for the Broncos. I think he might be a guy they look to move on from this offseason. Maybe he's a backup center, but man, I think the Lloyd Cushenberry experiment's done. And I think the Broncos offense, you might see some growth for it. I think that was another factor that led to their offensive explosion. I know there was Robert Armstrong commented in here talking about, the offense still looks horrible. And there were plenty of stretches of bad in that game. But once you made the switch from Glasgow to Lloyd Cushenberry, I think they only had like 2 or 3 and outs the rest of the game. And when they weren't going 3 and out, they were leading touchdown drives, 98-yard touchdown drives, 80-yard touchdown drives, 78-yard touchdown drives. That's, I think, a tremendous sign for the offense.
I agree, though. I think the offense is like, we need to see a lot more until I feel like confident in it. You know what I mean? Like I still have to see a ton more. And I think Zach's on the same page there, but it's like, I agree with him for sure. The Broncos need to continue. Like, it needs to be consistent. It can't be Russ starts the game terrible. Is improved a little bit. It goes back down to terrible. Now he's playing good. Offense looks great. Now they're terrible again. We need a little bit of consistency would make me feel a lot more comfortable.
Scoring a couple points in the third quarter wasn't enough for you, Joey?
No. I want to see a complete football game one of these days. That'd be terrific. I would love that. If we had a game where it was like, oh, wow, the offense looked good all fourth quarters, man. That would be a beautiful, beautiful day.
We aren't even in the same zip code as confidence in the offense right now, but we are making progress towards that point. Like we were in total despair, and now it's like, oh, maybe with a bye, and like maybe they could kind of figure something out. I'm going to pick the Titans 2 weeks from now. But I will feel less miserable than I did in our Jaguars preview show.
Okay.
I guess that's fair. Coop wants to, and he knows that it's not a Broncos player, but dude, can we talk about Travis Etienne? No, he's not a Bronco, but oh my God, dog.
Yeah.
Dog. I know it was a game. Guys, talk about it. Let's get into it.
The explosive as hell. Like he gets to 0 to 100 like that. Like he's I don't know how else to explain it than that. Like that's the best way I would describe Travis Etienne. That's how he was coming out of college, I was a little worried about him out of college. If I'm being honest with you guys, I wasn't the biggest Travis Etienne guy coming out of college. I had him, relatively, right? Like a lot of people had him as running back 1. I think I had him as like running back 3. So that's kind of where I was on him. But yeah, he looks terrific, and he looks like a focal point of that offense. Like as someone that you see them wanting to run plays through and for. Not just kind of a piece of their offense, but one of the players that is the main focal point. We're going to figure out ways to get Travis Etienne the ball. And so far this year, I think he has the highest yards per carry in the league right now, if I remember that correctly. It's been terrific. Shout out to Travis Etienne. And definitely dangerous going forward. Another piece when I was talking about why I like the Jags so much going forward, he's another reason why.
Yeah, I think Najee Harris got a lot of undeserved love for his rookie season, if I'm being honest. Like, I thought it was fine, but people were hyping him up like he was a top 5 running back, and I thought that was nuts. Right now, if you were to redraft those guys and you take Javonte Williams' injury into account and Najee Harris looking the way he has this season and his injury, Travis Etienne might be the first running back. And I did not like him in college. He frustrated me so much. It was like he'd have hallways to run through up the middle, and he'd be like, nope, busting it outside. And then it'd be like a loss of 1. It looks like he's bulked up some this past offseason, and I think it's paid dividends, or at least since his Achilles tear. I think it's paid dividends to how he's playing. He's not a power back by any means, but he's not going down on every arm tackle.
He's slippery is the way I would describe him.
That's beautiful, yeah, and super jumpy or jittery. What's the
jittery? Is a good
twitched one. Up. That's what I'm thinking. Sorry, yeah. Twitchy, bends the corner so fast. I don't know. He's an awesome player.
Mm-hmm.
Throwing all the verbiages at me, guys. There will be a quiz at the end of the show. Just get ready for that. Jorge Rodriguez jumped in here over on YouTube, said winning streak and road to the Super Bowl. I'm calling it. I'm gonna say right now that's a little optimistic he's calling it. I'm not calling it.
I thought that was you. I thought it was your take.
It's a bold prediction.
That is a bold prediction. We do those on Fridays.
Careful though. It's spicy.
I hate it so much.
It's a spicy prediction.
There's like 11% chance, or maybe I think it's up to 12 now.
For the Super Bowl?
Oh, yeah, or for the playoffs. Sorry.
Oh, okay. I was like, whoa.
No, Super Bowl I think is down to like 3%. Psych, this team sucks. Hackett's got to go. Oh, you got me, Jorge. You're now blocked from the chat.
That was funny.
Funny jokes. It was really kind of funny. I was like, wow, people are still really
Psych! This team sucks.
Just kidding. He's all a Raiders fan. All right, let's get to. Do you have any other points, Zach? Go ahead.
Yeah, per 538, the Broncos have only a 10% chance of making the playoffs. They only have a 0.2% chance of winning the Super Bowl, rather. And then I'm seeing if I can find the other thing, Football Outsiders predictions, but I can't right now, so that'll have to do.
I think that paints a pretty decent picture of what it's looking like right now. I don't think any of us have our minds there. How quickly 8 weeks changes the entire outlook on a season, but it's fair, and I think we have lots to celebrate from that game. Honestly, if it was another Colts game, it would have been bad. It would have been bad for all of us. I don't think we would have survived. So happy to be celebrating a win today. Any other players that you want to point out before we get to everyone's favorite time of the day?
I think I'm okay, Bri. I just want to throw out there that it's funny coming from a loss to a win, or from a win to a loss, especially like while you're in the first half of the season, you're always reminded of how of a week to week sport football is. Especially in the NFL, like vibes change like that. Like they really do.
Human beings are just emotional. There's a human element to playing the game, and there's a big human element to watching it, which sometimes pokes through in a lot of our analysis. Alessandra Rhymes says, good evening, people. How do you all keep track of stats? Zach, you were just reading off of which...
I was where did I go? I went to 538 just because I knew they had a playoff prediction tool, and then I went to Pro Football or not Pro Football Focus. I went to Football Outsiders. I think Pro Football Reference is the best for generic stats, and then some advanced stats like pressures, drops, drop rate, pressure rate, stuff like that. PFF grades, in my opinion, are worthless, but I think there's some good advanced stats on there. If you're looking for EPA, RB's DM, if you're looking for DVOA, I think those are the two best analytics. Football Outsiders. Speaking of per Football Outsiders, Broncos have a 14% chance of making the playoffs, 1.9% chance of making the Final Four, 0.6% chance of reaching the Super Bowl, and a 0.2% chance of winning it.
He's asking because he's wondering how many tackles Bradley Chubb has had this season. That's a good question.
That one shouldn't be that hard to find. Zach, our
I'm just
stats
gonna
guy, the
Google.
Let's Talk Broncos stats guru, is on the case right now. Just stand by momentarily. He's usually pretty quick at this.
26 with
26.
5.5 sacks.
Okay. Should we throw another stat out on him? How many pressures does he have, Zach? you're on mute.
Yeah, Joey's question of the day today. Look up a stat fast.
All right. I'm also going to throw this one out while you're doing that. Coop also wonders if having Glasgow at center is helping Reisner a little bit. I don't know. Reisner absolutely bodied that dude. I don't know who he had in his hands, but he threw him like a rag doll. That was pretty funny to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that always, like, offensive line is really a unit, right? Like, the way I see it, I would rather have 5 like above average or average offensive linemen than I would have 2 elite and 3 not good, right? It's a unit. That's how you're evaluating your offensive line, and I definitely think it will help a little bit. Like, is Reisner still a player that you're probably going to want to replace next year? Yes. 1,000%. Just because he looks a little better, because someone around him is helping him more, and the unit looks better as a whole, doesn't necessarily mean that you shouldn't go out and replace that player. So, but yeah, to your point, like I think that it probably does help Reisner look better a little bit for sure.
Awesome, fantastic! It's everyone's favorite time of the night. It's Joey's question of the day.
Let's go,
Let's
guys. This one, very simple. Halloween. What was your favorite Halloween candy growing up? And I want everybody in the chat to answer this as well. Like, what's the one that if they put the bowl out in front of you, you were 1,000% grabbing every single time?
100 grand or Heath bars?
Okay, 100 grand or Heath.
I went through like phases. Like when I was younger, like early trick or treating, it was Butterfingers for me.
Okay.
And then I would say like Reese's, and then most recently Kit Kats.
See, Zach's a smart guy. It's the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. Any other answer is wrong. We're not accepting it. Everyone in the chat that isn't like Ty here and says Reese's is wrong as well. Bri, I'm sorry to inform you that you are incorrect. Joey's question of the day. There we go, Wayne.
Do I look like that I conform to other people's standards? No. And the thing is that it was 100 grand. It's not a phase, Dad. When I was a kid, it was 100 grand in Heath bars. But then as I, grew up into an adult, up until very recently, Reese's peanut butter cups have been my absolute favorite. But actually the shaped ones, like they do Easter eggs and Christmas trees for holidays, those are better. But now I like peppermint patties.
Ooh, interesting. Interesting.
Ty says if anyone says candy corn, they are a sociopath.
I agree with that. Like if you're a fan of the candy corn, I'm judging you.
I'm not disgusted by them, but yeah, it shouldn't be at the top.
Wrong again. Sorry, guys.
Like Maddie last year had like a candy corn liquor, or he made like some dessert and like glazed it in like some kind of candy corn thing. Maddie Moles over at the Mainly Broncos podcast, friends of the show, is a huge candy corn guy. And like I said, I'm not disgusted by candy corn, but he takes candy corn to the maximum extent where it's like, ooh, this is tough for me, man. This is tough.
So like, what is even how do you make, wouldn't like just a candy corn flavored thing just taste like sugar? Am I wrong?
Well, but
Like,
it's not
does candy
just
corn
sugar.
have
To
a
your point, 'cause it's
flavor?
kinda,
I think
it's
that
got
it's
a
just sugar.
taste to it.
So
There's something in it. I don't know what that thing is, but it's not just straight sugar.
I think it's just sweet with no flavor. Me
I
personally.
recently had funfetti candy corn, and it tasted like the frosting, but in hard form.
Okay. I'm
So
getting
there's flavor.
disgusted speaking about candy corn right now. And the reason why anyone would go out of their way to make something else taste like it is ridiculous to me.
I have your back, Maddie. I won't judge you, but yeah, I need to know what candy corn exploit. Candy corn liquor is a step too far for me, but
and if Maddie wants to go back and forth about it, he can, because I'll go back and forth with him about it. The candy corn is disgusting.
You just throw an elbow at Maddie because he likes candy corn. Sorry. Oh, I'm not supposed to say the word elbows. Samuel Castro is jumping on. I'm with bro. And that's everyone's phone corrects to that. Unless he's just calling me bro. And anyways, fist bump. Peppermint Patty, me and my daughter bought them. Both love them. Yes, I think that they're fantastic. The older that you get, it's a more refined palate. You children wouldn't understand. Although I really like Sour Patch Kids. That would actually probably be my all-time favorite candy.
Okay.
Very good one.
All right. That'll do it for us tonight. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Guys, where can everybody find your stuff?
Yeah, everyone. Make sure you're following me at JR Drafts. I'm going to start writing here over this bye, so make sure that you're following my writing at Mile High Sports. Definitely make sure you're going to go listen on game days. Frankie and I do a halftime show on Twitter for Twitter Spaces. Make sure you're tuning into those. And I think that's pretty much all I have.
Check out my stock up, stock down column on Mile High Sports. You can find it on whatever feed you're viewing this on. If you just scroll down, actually, that's not true. If you're on YouTube, you will have to go elsewhere. But if you're on Facebook or Twitter, you just scroll down this channel long enough and you will see it. Go to milehighsports.com. I'm really proud of these game recaps. I do not think there is a writer in Broncos country doing a more thorough game recap than I am. If they are, I'd like someone to link me to them. I'm writing 2,500 words per. You don't have to read the whole thing. Just read the parts you like, but it's all there for you. Dive in like Scrooge McDuck dives into a pile of money.
I absolutely love it. Yes, I implore you to go check that out. Go to milehighsports.com too if you want to read the rest of the articles that he has and you just want it all nice and collated over there. You also, since you're here, can like the stream and go ahead and set your notifications so you know every time we're on. We'll be back on Tuesday and we'll be back on Wednesday and we'll see you back on Friday and Saturday. Actually, we'll discuss that later, but it was nice talking to you. You can find me over on Twitter, BriMaestis303. Joey Richards is at JR Drafts and Zach _Seegers. We'll talk to you tomorrow, Broncos country. Goodbye.
Goodbye.